Teaching productive skills, speaking. Topics to be covered in this module. Introduction to speaking English. Reasons for teaching speaking. What is teaching speaking? The roles of students in learning speaking. Speaking strategies and teaching techniques. Characterization of a good language learner. Techniques for teaching speaking. Introduction to speaking English. Speaking is the most important part of learning a second language. You can't master a language without learning to speak it. It's also one of the most challenging elements for students to learn. This is because speech has so many different characteristics. This includes reduced form, contractions, vowel reductions, and the use of slang. It also includes stress, rhythm, and the use of signpost transitions. In the classroom, there should be frequent opportunities to practice speaking. Most of these opportunities should be informal and unassessed. Reasons for teaching speaking. The main reason for teaching speaking is students won't be able to use a language without it. Other reasons for teaching speaking include developing fluency. Students will need lots of practice to become fluent. The activities in the classroom should focus on fluency. This includes interactive activities in which students communicate with each other. This should involve the communication of ideas and opinions. Increasing confidence. Learning speaking in class will increase students' confidence in using English day to day. Your methods should focus on easing students' anxiety. You should also provide input they can understand. And don't pressure them to speak before they're ready. What is teaching speaking? Teaching speaking refers to teaching second language learners to produce English speech sounds and patterns. Use the correct stress, rhythm, and intonation patterns for English. Choose the right words and sentences for varying contexts, social setting, situation, audience, and subject matter. Deliver their thoughts in an accurate and meaningful sentence. Use language to express values, judgments, and opinions. Speak with few unnatural pauses. In other words, speak fluently. The roles of students in learning speaking. Students can take on many different important roles when learning to speak English. Here are some examples. Active or interactive. Students should bring their own experiences and opinions to the classroom. They should be willing to interact with fellow students. Intensive, speaking that involves phonological or grammatical aspects of language. Responsive, this involves students answering teacher or student-initiated questions. Transactional, this is when language is used to convey specific information. It's an extension of the responsive role. Interpersonal, this role uses language to maintain social relationships and have conversations. This involves a casual register, colloquial and emotional language, slang and sarcasm. It can be a tricky one for students. Extensive, the use of formal, deliberate language. It can be planned or impromptu. Speaking strategies and teaching techniques. There are 3 kinds of speaking strategies English learners should use. These are metacognitive, cognitive, and social or affective strategies. Metacognitive strategies consider the mental aspect of students' learning. They encourage students to be aware of and take control of their self-development. Types of metacognitive strategies include planning, directed and selective attention, self-monitoring, self-evaluation, and problem identification. Cognitive strategies involve the analysis and manipulation of language. Types of cognitive strategies include repetition, resourcing, deduction, and inferencing. Social or affective strategies involve interaction between learners and management of the affective demands of language learning. Social or affective strategies include cooperation, asking questions, and self-talk. Social and affective strategies. Here, we'll look at social and affective strategies in more depth. Social strategies include asking questions for clarification, or to figure out why the teacher corrected their language use. Asking questions develops students' understanding and should be encouraged. Cooperation with fellow students or fluent English speakers. Both are useful. Empathy. Students should develop a cultural understanding of English speakers and fellow students. This will help them better understand social situations. They should also become aware of people's thoughts and feelings. Students must pay attention to what specific words and body language signal. Effective strategies include lowering anxiety, play background music or do a group meditation or breathing exercise. Encouragement. Students should learn to encourage themselves and think positively. Provide them with motivational quotes, invite them to take risks and reward themselves after completing an assessment. Taking their emotional temperature. Students should be aware of their own thoughts and feelings. Learning a language can be challenging, which can bring up many emotions. Encourage them to listen to their bodies. Other techniques are using a checklist, writing in a journal, and discussing feelings with others. Characterization of a good language learner. What makes a good language learner? What should a language learner do to successfully learn? Good language learners should be creative and experiment with the language. Be organized. Organize the information they learn about the language. Seek out opportunities in and outside of the classroom to practice the language. Accept the uncertainty and discomfort of not understanding every word of the language. Use knowledge of their first language to master the English language. Use context to help them understand the language. Learn techniques to keep a conversation going. Learn different styles of speaking and writing depending on the context. Techniques for teaching speaking. Hold classes in English. English should be the main language spoken in the classroom. This will enable students to practice regularly. Don't completely ban the use of their first language. It may help them socially and with understanding. Use pair and group work. Pair work means both students must contribute. This is ideal if you want to assess students' abilities. Group work allows students to experiment with more complex interaction. Use spontaneous and guided activities. Most speech in the real world is unplanned, so spontaneous activities are good practice. Guided activities are best for complete beginners. Use role play. This allows students to experiment with improvisation. It also gets them to consider a wide variety of situations. Use task-based activities. Ask students to work together towards a goal. For example, ask them to list the qualities of a good teacher. Link speaking to other tasks. The 4 components of language learning are interlinked. Have speaking activities directly follow or precede related writing, listening or reading tasks. Correct mistakes selectively. Don't correct every mistake your students make. You could discuss common mistakes that occurred at the end of class. Summary. In this module, you learned the following. Speaking is the most important part of learning a second language. The main reason for teaching speaking is students won't be able to use a language without it. Teaching speaking also develops students' language fluency and confidence. Students can take on many different important roles when learning to speak English. Metacognitive strategies consider the mental aspect of a student's learning. Cognitive strategies involve the analysis and manipulation of language. Social or affective strategies involve interaction between learners and manage the affective demands of language learning.